Hello. I am the professor. I've been asked to cover some of the more esoteric elements of history. Today we are taking a look at Gnosticism, a word that sounds as though it ought to be whispered in a candlelit library, while someone suspiciously dramatic plays the organ in the next room. But we must be careful. Gnosticism was not one neat religion with one founder, one church, and one official handbook. Modern scholars use the word to describe a loose family of ancient religious and philosophical movements, especially active in the early centuries of Christianity. The word comes from the Greek gnosis, knowledge, insight, awakening. Manly P. Hall loved this world of symbols. In the secret teachings of all ages, he placed the Gnostic mysteries alongside other ancient mystery traditions, a grand map of hidden wisdom, symbols, and initiations. Lovely stuff, very atmospheric. But today, we must combine Hall's symbolic imagination with the careful discipline of history. So, shall we do the sensible thing and open a door into the 2nd century? Here we are, the Roman Empire, around the 2nd century CE. Not one world, really, but many worlds pressed together. Greek philosophy, Roman power, Jewish scripture, Egyptian symbolism, early Christian preaching, and mystery religions, all rubbing shoulders in the marketplace. So were the Gnostics Christians? Some were, some were not. Some groups we call Gnostic used Christian language and stories about Jesus. Others drew more from Jewish, Platonic, or other religious traditions. That is why historians are cautious. Gnostic is useful, but slippery, like trying to label every mysterious drawer in a magician's desk with one sticker. Many of these groups asked a troubling question. What if the world we see is not the whole truth? What if human beings carry a spark of divine origin, but have forgotten who they are? Now, this is not a photograph of history. This is mythic imagination. In many texts associated with Gnostic traditions, we find stories of a highest divine reality beyond ordinary understanding. From that fullness, often called the pleroma, come divine emanations. One important figure is Sophia, wisdom. In some myths, Sophia's error or longing leads to the creation of a lower being, sometimes called the demiurge, who shapes the material world. Careful now, not every group told the story the same way, but a recurring idea appears. The material world can feel like a trap, and salvation comes through awakening, through gnosis, remembering the divine truth hidden within. So they thought the world was evil. Some traditions leaned strongly in that direction. Others were more complicated. It is safer to say many Gnostic texts are deeply suspicious of the material world and of ignorance. Their great enemy is not always matter itself, but forgetfulness, spiritual amnesia. Manly P. Hall saw the Gnostics as part of a great symbolic current, seekers of hidden truth, initiates of a wisdom beneath ordinary religion. He was fascinated by figures like Abraxas, by mystery schools, by the idea that ancient myths concealed philosophical teachings. And that is useful, if we use it properly. Hall helps us feel the symbolic atmosphere. Modern scholarship helps us avoid turning atmosphere into fact. The Gnostics were not simply ancient occult superheroes. They were diverse ancient thinkers and communities, wrestling with scripture, philosophy, suffering, creation and salvation, which frankly is already interesting enough without adding fog machines. By the 2nd through 4th centuries, many Christian leaders strongly opposed teachings they considered Gnostic. Writers such as Irenaeus of Lyon argued that these groups distorted Christian tradition. So were the church leaders just trying to silence them? That is one interpretation people sometimes jump to, but history is more complicated. Early Christianity was still defining itself. Leaders were asking, what counts as true teaching? Which writings should be trusted? Who was Jesus? Was creation good? Was the God of the Hebrew Bible the same as the Father of Jesus? These were not small questions. They shaped Christianity for centuries. The Gnostic-leaning groups often gave answers that other Christians found deeply unacceptable, especially the idea that the creator of the material world might be ignorant, inferior, or separate from the highest God. For a long time, much of what scholars knew came from their opponents. That changed dramatically in 1945 near Nag Hammadi in Egypt, when a collection of Coptic codices was discovered. The Nag Hammadi collection includes more than 24 writings, sayings of Jesus, theological works, mythological texts, and even non-Christian Hermetic material. So this finally let the Gnostics speak for themselves. Closer, yes. Not perfectly, but closer. It allowed scholars to study texts associated with these movements directly, instead of relying only on hostile summaries. And once scholars read them, the picture became more complex. The texts did not reveal one simple religion. They revealed variety, different myths, rituals, and interpretations of the soul. So what do we do with the Gnostics? We do not treat them as the secret true Christianity hiding behind history. That goes beyond the evidence. We also do not dismiss them as merely strange heretics. That is too simple. Instead, we study them as part of the rich, unstable, creative religious world of late antiquity. A world asking enormous questions. Why is there suffering? What is the soul? Is the material world a home, a prison, a classroom, or a test? Can knowledge save us? And what kind of knowledge would that be? You see, that is the dangerous thing about opening old doors. Sometimes the past does not give us answers. Sometimes it gives us better questions. The Gnostics remind us that history is not just a list of dates. It is a record of human beings trying to understand why the world feels broken, and whether there is a hidden light within us trying to find its way home. Another door, another adventure awaits. Until the next time, my friends.